The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Listen in as your host, Casey Colburn, brings together a perfectly picked panel of guests to discuss hot topics and events within the metaphysical and paranormal field. But don't worry, should the discussions get too heated, our studio switch will sound a cackle to simmer the cauldron back down. Listen for new episodes of Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Welcome to Cauldron Talk. This is Season 2, Episode 6. I'm your host, Casey Colburn, and today we welcome to our circle Billie Lindemuth and Heather Mattison. Today we are talking about Halloween. Welcome to Cauldron Talk, ladies. How are we doing today?
Great. Doing good?
Good. I'm happy to hear that. So today we are talking about Halloween. And my first question for you guys is, what is Halloween?
I mean, for me, I just love the end of the season, at the end of the harvest in the fall. I like the traditional aspects of it, but I also love going back to when I was a kid, trick-or-treating and everything. So I like everything about the fall. My birthday is in October, so I've always been very drawn to Halloween and everything about it. So for me, it's all about, celebrating the end of the season, end of the harvest, and then going into the winter months.
For me, it's more deep-rooted because I have Celtic roots, and I think that, like, going back to the true meaning of All Hallows Eve, Heather, I think I'm a good bit older than you, and when we had trick-or-treat and Halloween, it was incredible. There was not the safety issue, that there was, like, you went from like 5 o'clock right after dinner to 11 o'clock at night. As long as the candy held out, you were allowed to trick or treat. And it was a whole different time and a whole different thing. But for me personally, the All Hallows Eve and dressing up as a witch or gargoyle or something scary, so you blend in with the spirits, has always been very interesting, especially since I'm a natural witch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Halloween has definitely been my favorite holiday growing up. I mean, my family, we did like the haunted mazes and stuff. We would actually build them in our backyards and then just kind of let every trick-or-treater come in and get spooked and get some treats and go on their way. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think, too, like with what Heather was saying about, like, Samhain and stuff, it's just, it's a bittersweet time of year because it's like all the growing is over and everything is going to sleep and, going to transitioning into their death, such as the trees and stuff. And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, it's like a whole beginning of a whole new season. So in that, it's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. And we, for us personally, for Halloween, every year, for over 20 years, we did a whole Halloween event at our house. I used to live in the suburbs. We're now out in the country, but when we lived in the suburbs, we had lots of neighbors and lots of trick-or-treaters. Going back until the the early 90s, we would have a big haunted house for Halloween for trick-or-treaters. It would all benefit for the food bank of Western New York. So we would have actors and we would set up all sorts of little scenes. We would have mummies and witches and, Frankenstein. I like the Universal monsters, so I always did a big theme. So we would do all the different, like Dracula. We would have all the different scenes set up, and you could walk through. People would donate like a canned good. So for us, it was like a really neat fundraiser, and it was a fun way to have everybody come out, meet lots of people. We'd have thousands of people there, and we were on the news every year. So it was a really fun time. So for us, we made it just a really nice big last sort of hurrah, because we knew after Halloween it was going to be snowy and terrible, and that was pretty much it. So we made it a really big fun event.
Where did you grow up, Heather?
Town of Tonawanda.
Okay.
right outside of Buffalo. Yep. Yep. But then I was in Atlanta for a while, and they didn't really celebrate Halloween down there. Very strict down there, Baptists. So they were always trying to cancel Halloween every year. But we still always did trick-or-treating. We always had trick-or-treaters anyway, but it was nothing like it is up here. Very, very different up here in the north.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely make sure it's a thing around here. Jamestown's kind of a poor location, and there's not a whole lot to do for, anybody really. And so my mom, she does what she can to kind of bring something for the kids, give them something to see. If it's just decorating the house, she'll go all out with it. We'll have cobwebs from the peaks of the roof all the way down, and she is the Halloween witch every year. And she's actually, we haven't gotten to hear it yet, but she's the cackling witch sound is hers.
That's great.
Talk. Yeah. So she does that every year, and it's just to kind of give back a little bit.
And we started decorating. Actually, we have the house here at Greystone Manor. We started decorating with everything we used at the other house. We were fitting everything into a tiny, yard, like a regular suburban backyard, and we have it all spread out now. So we want to actually do like a walking maze maybe next year, where we can sort of walk through and have scenes on, because we would have actors, we would have characters, so we'd have people portraying different. We'd have like somebody dressed like a witch in with the witches, or we'd have someone dressed like a scarecrow in with. We have like a cannibal barbecue with just funny stuff. We had somebody dressed like a gorilla, and we had gorillas in a cage, and they would break loose and they chase people. So we had all sorts of funny stuff. So I also helped work a haunted hayride out here in Wheatfield for a couple of years, and I just love the idea of, in the dark, you can make the maze so intricate, and during the day you don't see it. But at night, it feels like you're driving for miles, but you're actually sort of looping around through the maze. So it's a pretty neat thing. So we want to maybe do something like that next year as well.
That'd be fun. I'll volunteer.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to hold you to it.
Absolutely. I'll do it.
That'd be fun. But I don't know if we might do it a couple weekends during the month next year of October, but just finally getting all of our stuff out of storage this year was fun. We didn't do anything last year, so it was neat to pull all the dummies out and see who's still standing and who's still okay. And we have werewolves and like Little Red Riding Hood, and we would have Grandma in the cottage and just funny stuff like that and actors. Cool. So yeah,
that's cool. So what are some of the parallels between the modern and traditional Halloween or Samhain?
Well, I think the costumes, obviously, I hope that never dies out. I think that the kids are going to keep that tradition for years to come. I don't know. It really hasn't changed that much, other than like the safety factors.
Yeah, and I know that in the 1950s they changed a lot of what they were doing as well, because it used to be a lot more. It was darker. The costumes are devils and a lot scarier.
Right.
And I know that they sort of tried to modernize it a little bit, because it was also, All Hallows Eve, Halloween night too. It was all mischief night. People would break things, and it was actually like a fear thing. People were having, if God forbid you weren't home, they'd break your windows, and they would actually do damage. So 1950s and that stuff a lot. And they started having people try and do like house parties, and it became more of a huge event with all the baby boomers. There were so many kids in neighborhoods, so a lot more of but the traditional stuff, like you said, with the costumes, that goes back to what's like Roman days or whatever it is.
Right.
To fool the spirits to thinking that you were a ghoul. You weren't allowed to go outside at night, Halloween night, because you were afraid you were going to be followed or have a ghost follow you. So that's why you start dressing up, so you could fool them. So the spirits would think you were one of them, so. The same with the food.
The veil is thinnest, and the dead can communicate the easiest on that night, and they are allowed to roam the earth. So I'm not really sure how that legend got started or anything, but that was the fear. And I think over the years, like I grew up in the 50s, and that wasn't the thought. The thought was getting really nice candy and going to we didn't care if we were chased by ghosts. But as I've gotten older, I have realized the difference in the veil, and like when I do readings and stuff, more and more people come through, and it's so much easier. And I understand, like I've not done an official Halloween seance, but I understand that those spirits come in so much easier as well.
It definitely amps up. You can feel it. The energy definitely changes as well. There's just something about this time of the year.
So I know that this year, speaking of seances and everything too, and with the veil, I know this year we're going to have a spectacular moon. Do you think that that's going to help enhance some of that too?
Absolutely.
Yep. That moon energy does so much. It affects everything from your moods to everything else. And, it affects the tides and the water, and, we're almost made up entirely of water, so it definitely affects our spirits as well. So it would definitely amplify the spirit realm. That just totally makes sense.
And I'm a water sign. I'm Cancer, and I am so incredibly affected by the moon that, like, the full moon, you know how you set your stones out and your crystals and everything to recharge? That's exactly what happens to me. And I just feel so healthy and so vibrant on the night of the full moon.
Absolutely. Yep. And I know the last full moon we had here was very, very strange. I had a lot of weird things happen. Just the moonlight itself, I think, sort of plays tricks on the ground. Like being out in the country, it's funny because you can see so far as far as the way the house is set up here. Big, wide open backyard, but we put a hot tub in last year here at the house for guests and things like that. But sitting out there in the dark on a full moon, there's nothing like it. But it's also super creepy because the moonlight just casts strange shadows. That's really odd. I was seeing black shadow shapes moving around, and I just kept looking at the moon and thinking, is this sort of amplifying it? Is the moon creating these dark shadows to move around? That very, very weird.
Yeah, this past full moon was definitely very strange. I truly believe that the full moons that we're having right now are bringing about change. They're very powerful, and I think anybody that does work in the metaphysical field is going to feel that. It's going to kind of enhance and kind of amplify everything that we're doing right now. I personally, because of how 2020 has been, I am actually using it to like recharge myself. So I'm kind of like plugging in and just letting myself recharge. And that might be something that a lot of people might want to consider too. But any work that you're doing right now, I think it's going to be amplified by all this.
Absolutely.
I've noticed that as well. It's almost like I need to have downtime. If I'm doing anything spiritual, it's almost like I feel like I'm being drained really easily. As compared to before, it wasn't nothing like this. And now it just feels like it just takes a lot out of me, which is really sort of crazy. And then I do have to just sort of just absolutely meditate, stop, be quiet after for a while, and recharge. Because you can feel the stress off of people as well. So if you're doing readings for people are coming in. I mean, as an empath and as a medical empath, I'm picking up their energy fields, and it's just, I'm trying to heal while they're sitting in front of me, and it's absolutely zapping me. People are 5 times as anxious as they were before,
Do you attribute any of that to the whole COVID debacle, Heather?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, because I think people are just off their game. They're off their normal routine. Nothing's the same. And I think a lot of people, if they don't have their pattern or they're following their daily routine, it just throws them into a skid,
And it's like, it's been financially draining. It's been physically draining. There's been more suicides than ever. It has been horrible. And ironically, at the same time, the earth is getting so healthy. I was looking at a picture in Turkey, and they hadn't seen the Great Pyrenees Mountains in over 30 years because of the smog. And now they're, yeah, it's crazy. It's such an oxymoron because, the people are suffering and the earth is healing. And it's like, I hope there comes a confluence at some point where we get it back together and, we're all good again.
Yeah, and they always say that humans are the worst plague of the planet, because they really just no respect, just the things the damage that people cause. But it's like having a giant ant colony, people are very disruptive. They disrupt the earth just everywhere they are. They're ripping down trees and digging holes and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So all to the earth.
Mm-hmm. And it's a strange thing. It's like the weather has been absolutely unexplainable. Like we had a storm hit a few weeks back, and it took down 4 60-foot pine trees that have stood for centuries. It's just like, it's so, like when it comes, it's so devastating. You don't get rain, you get a storm. You don't get cold, you get freezing. You don't get hot, you get stifling. It's so extreme.
Yeah, one of the things too that we just recently got to was El Nino is back, but we just got out of El Nino, I think.
Yep.
And so everything's like really kind of moving too fast, and like I've even noticed where it almost feels like right now we should be getting ready for Christmas and not Halloween. And it's so weird because like I felt that shift where it's almost like our seasons have just changed.
Yes.
So.
We definitely feel like we're off by about a month too. I've been noticing that even with this last month, it's been beautiful. I mean, until like a week ago, all of a sudden it just feels like it's quickly winter. Like there's no in between, no gradual.
Yeah.
Also, it just seems like this year has flown in spite of all the devastation and, being stuck at home and everything. This year is flying by.
Yeah. Well, there's no concept of time anymore because it isn't the normal schedules. You're not keeping time by if you have kids in school, where the school weeks are normal. It was just a very, very weird year. Yeah.
So getting back a little bit towards Halloween, we talked a little bit about the costumes and how certain things can, have effect on society and all that. We know certain costumes are already offensive, like you shouldn't try to dress up like a Native American because it would be, it's not appropriate. So is this same concept with being a witch for Halloween? Is there being like some sort of offensiveness to that too?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the cartoony witches, that the way they portray people as witches is sort of crazy. The old hag, with the wart and all the crazy, scary looking. The show, I don't know if you ever watched Bewitched, but the show Bewitched, where that's a big topic on that show from way back. But it was always really funny because they would always get really angry about that. Because most witches were medicine men. They were medicine people. They were healers. They were holistic. They were the ones who made potions and cures, and they knew all the old world magic where you knew certain herbs, spices, what to use to cure people. Then they got a, bad name. I don't know. Everything got crazy with the church and just tagging people. And they can't even prove any of those people were witches, that they were burning in Salem and all that. And from the accounts, none of them looked like that. They didn't look like an old crone, although some people were, Yeah.
But I don't relate to that anyway as a witch. I'm more of the, I guess you would call me normal looking. So I don't even relate to that. That to me is as far as being a Disney princess. So it doesn't offend me because to me it's just a caricature of something made up. And, you've seen that since I was a kid. And, even before that, in the, 20s and 30s, they had portrayals of witches. But I think it's just kind of comical. I don't take offense to it because it, I might, if I was Native, I might take offense to a Native American costume or an Eskimo. But not being there, it's different.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with it too. I think it's how the person wears it, if that makes sense. So like, yeah, if they're making it into this big joke, then that's wrong, But if you're doing it because, maybe you secretively would like to be that, then I really don't have a problem with it.
I think that's
Yeah,
if you're gonna do something like that, like a movie or something, you should try to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah, I definitely like it's just how the wearer is portraying it. Like look into the culture and stuff so that you're not just romanticizing it either. There's a lot of going off from the Native American costumes. There's a lot of women that will wear the headdresses, and they try to make it look very sexy and everything. And that's a war bonnet, and it's something only a chief would wear, and so it's actually very insulting. You shouldn't wear that. You can wear feathers in your hair, certain kinds. When natives have like the eagle feathers and the hawk feathers in their hair, they've earned that. And so it's not something that you should just pick up. So there's a whole lot more to these things than just regalia and costumes and things like that. So if you are thinking about dressing up like that for Halloween, just take in more consideration. Ask yourself, why do you want to do this? Is it because you want to do like some sort of stereotype? And it's not just native costumes. We see it all across the board with different cultures, so if you want to be the drunken Indian, I would ask you to please just try to get something else, because it's not going to be good on you. So
Right.
Getting back to the question about the witch costumes, I think it does just kind of right on that. Ask yourself, why? Is it just to be a joke and to be, hurtful to those that are actually a part of that community? Or do you actually like the costume and, kind of idolize it? And your intention, every episode intention is what comes out, it's what your intention is with it. And, if you are looking to hurt somebody, then you got to be prepared for that too, I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess my suggestion is, if you're going to do any of these other cultural costumes, do your research, actually give a little bit more respect to it. And then who knows, maybe you'll find that you actually really like something in that culture. Like if you're going to dress up like, the Mexican
Hollywood
culture thing, don't do the Mexican holding the tequila bottle and stuff like that. Do something that's a little bit more traditional.
Positive.
Yeah, positive. So I think that's good in any situation. Just try to be positive, do good things. And if you're looking into another culture, that's fine. Not everything is cultural appropriation, but if you're taking it and you're claiming it as your own and you're using it in like a stereotypical way, or in a insulting way, then that's where it becomes an issue.
Exactly.
So let's get back a little bit here towards Halloween. When you were a kid, I've got a few stories that I like to tell, but when you were a kid, how did you celebrate Halloween? And do you do some of the things now?
Yeah, we just celebrated it normal. I mean, back in the day we had Halloween parties at home, but we would always go trick-or-treating. But, it's sort of like Billie was talking about, where I was, a kid of the 60s and 70s, but we would go trick-or-treating as well, take a pillowcase and go trick-or-treating from before it even got dark until, I don't know. My brother would come home at like 11. He would stay out for 6 hours trick-or-treating. But we had so much fun. But we had parties. But my mother and stepfather actually got married on Halloween. So back when this is back in the 70s, so they had a huge Halloween party at the house, and then they would always have a big anniversary party every year, but they had everybody dress up. So it was always like a fun thing. So Halloween was a special day for us as well, just because it celebrated their wedding and everything. So Halloween was a pretty big holiday for us,
We went trick-or-treating with the group of kids, and that was pretty much it. I don't even really remember my parents decorating for Halloween. We always had a pumpkin carving, but like Christmas was always the decoration holiday.
Well, my mom used to make ceramics, so she made tons and tons of she had her own kiln and everything. So she made all the, jack-o'-lanterns and pumpkins and black cats. And I mean, the house was just full of ceramics, and she used to sell ceramics. So growing up, that was always, I just remember there being just decoration. She always decorated, though. She was big on all that stuff, big on all the holidays,
That's how I am.
Big on the like being a gypsy for Halloween, and we had the canning jar lids for earrings, like all the funny homemade costumes. I still to this day, I have a tube of lipstick that she used to use from probably the 50s. It's got a smell that's just nothing like it. They don't make lipstick like this anymore. It's probably made out of whale oil, but it smells so strong. But remember that stuff they put on? It was like solid. But to this day, I have it on my dressing table. I smell it. It reminds me of my mom. I'm like, oh my God, this reminds me of Halloween so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I have fond memories of Halloween. We had a blast. We had just probably my favorite day of the year, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely is for me. We always did the pumpkin carvings too. Traditionally, I believe I read somewhere that they actually used turnips. They would carve turnips. And we've made the apple shrunken heads and stuff before, and we were actually talking about doing that again this year. Then you put like the cloves and stuff in them, and it makes your house smell just delightful.
Yeah.
We used to do that with oranges. Yeah.
Yeah.
The cloves.
And then we would do the trick or treating. We would, usually have like pizza or something, which was always a fun treat at that time. All sorts of things. So yeah, we just kind of decorate the house. We would the last couple years that we were living at our previous house with them, we would just completely do the whole backyard as a haunted maze, and we'd have like 200 plus people come through it. And so that was always really fun. I enjoyed scaring a lot of the neighbor kids and stuff. Yeah. We would have people come from like out of state and everything just to come see us. And, we just made our own flyers. Like it wasn't like we didn't have a printer or anything. So we just made, drew on it, pumpkin or whatever, and then put it up. And we did pretty good. A lot of little kids came through and, oh, did you see them? And then it was so cool just to like see their reactions, like that's my favorite thing, like with gift giving and stuff. I want to see their reaction. That's all I need from it,
Yeah. And the reason I like Halloween in general, the reason I always loved Halloween is because you can do anything for Halloween. Like you can make a decoration for Halloween out of anything. Like you can garbage pick an old dresser and, paint it funny and have it as a weird decoration. Like you can do anything for Halloween. It's not like Christmas where it has to be specific things. Halloween, you can use your imagination, let it go wild,
Exactly.
Have a lot more fun and be more creative. That's for sure.
Yep. It was always so fun. Do you guys, like now in your adulthood, do you guys do like the pumpkin carvings and stuff still?
Absolutely. And I don't even have any kids around.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old granddaughter is so into Halloween and witches and ghosts and zombies. I'm so excited because my daughter absolutely hates Halloween. So she's following in my footsteps, and I'm so happy about that. She was here, the beginning of September. And so I had the house all decorated for her, and I sent her home with some decorations and stuff, and my daughter's so mad. But, hey, you can't stop somebody from liking Halloween.
No.
Right. Yeah, it's so much fun. And I, because we did the haunted house thing at our house every year, we did the big trick or treat thing. My kids grew up with that, like since the time they were born. That was just normal to have thousands of people coming by, and you had, actors and all sorts of funny stuff going on. And it was a huge festival with sound effects and fog machines going and pneumatics and, dummies jumping up and all sorts of funny stuff, So she moved to, they were in Georgia. This is like 4 years ago now. But the first year she moved away, wasn't home for Halloween. She said she just cried and cried. She said nobody did anything. She said she couldn't believe, that they just did nothing. No one did anything. They would have like one little decoration up. I'm like, well, you're not going to see what we did, up down there. They're not going to do that stuff in Georgia. But she was just blown away. She didn't really realize, because people do pretty much go big up here. You have quite a few people with big things, big decorations. They decorate their lawns and they sort of go all out. We're in the Step Out Buffalo too online. You can look at our house on there. The pictures are on there. We made it onto the list this year. Yeah,
that's cool.
The other day, how it seems like, I don't know if it's because of COVID and everybody being stuck at home, but more people in my neighborhood have decorated than in any other year I've seen. And I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah, I kept trying to cancel it, which is, well, if you're afraid, just don't go out. I don't understand. You're wearing masks. You can social distance. People at the door can throw the candy at you 6 feet.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of between it. Like, I want people to stay safe, but I also, if you're comfortable with doing these other things, and I'm not really sure what the difference is at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, the one thing I noticed that's a huge difference is the, just from when I was a kid to even taking my kids out trick-or-treating, 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, is you have to watch them like a hawk. Where back when we were kids, we were able to run loose and do whatever you wanted. You could go through the neighborhood. There was no fear of someone grabbing you or kidnapping you or something, God forbid, dangerous, the fear was out there. I mean, the danger was out there, but nothing like it is today. Like today, I wouldn't trust, I would never let 8-year-olds walk around the neighborhood by themselves, go to strangers' houses.
Yeah,
That's
I remember
a huge difference.
Yeah, I remember just sprinting from door to door, just going, and now you can't do that. And I remembered like what neighbors would have the best candy, and I tried to get there first.
Oh yeah.
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 So, being that we are all in the metaphysical field in some ways, what kind of metaphysical things, if it's too personal, you don't have to answer this, because I do understand some witches don't like to go into details. But if there is something metaphysically that you like to do for Halloween or Samhain, what are they?
I mean, as far as like ritualistic or something that I do as a ceremony or anything like that?
Yeah.
Going in for Halloween. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I'm not like a practicing witch or anything, but I do believe and I love everything about the Wiccan culture. I love everything about it. I do practice a lot of it, but I would just say I really just sort of bless the house. I do know that as soon as the night is over, like we're having a big Halloween party here this year. You're welcome. You guys can come over if you want. But we're going to have a big costume party because it's Halloween. It's a Saturday. It's a full moon. I want to do something fun, having fun. But then I will always go and bless the house after. I will, I have black salt and everything. I'll go through and bless everything. I just want to make sure nothing was brought in. I've got a lot of people coming in and staying. It's going to be a big party. So with it being Halloween, so you're bringing all sorts of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a funny night to have a lot of strange people. Not strange people. They're my friends, so they're strange people. But you know what I mean? Like you don't know what people have as attachments. It's Halloween night. It's a tricky night. So just to go through and sort of smudge and bless and make sure the house is sort of cleansed afterwards. So that's one thing I always do so that over the next day.
And with me, it's just my normal meditations and cleansings and nothing really ritualistic. But like after all the kids leave and stuff, I do sage the whole house. I'm kind of like Heather, it's like you don't know what the parents are bringing more than the children, but just a kind of nice cleansing of any negative kind of behaviors and stuff. But it's just my husband and I here and our little dog. So yeah, I really don't do anything great. We just have trick or treat. I always dress up for the children. And I think this year, I have new neighbors across the street. They're so precious. They're 3 and 4, and they can never remember my name, so they call me neighbor. And they're like, "Hi, neighbor. I love you, neighbor." They're so adorable. And one has neurocystic fibrosis, so he's got like brain tumor and stomach tumors and back tumors and just a really sad thing. So their mom is going to do like a front yard type setup, and I think I'm going to help her with that this year and just take all my stuff over across the street and help them.
That'll be nice. That's very nice.
Yeah, that's fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I for my practice, I set up like a little altar separate from my normal one. And every year it's different things that I put on it. Things that call to me, I suppose, that want to be placed there. But I actually do this for my ancestors. So the only constant thing that I'll have is a goblet and a plate. And then what I do is any drink that I have for that day, I will pour a sip of it, just a little bit into the goblet. Nothing that's gonna spoil. So like obviously like not milk or anything like that because it's gonna sit there all day. And then for the plate, I do the same thing with food. So I'll take a little piece of food and I'll stick there. And then at the end of the night, I do a ceremony where I give thanks and I say, I love yous and all that to my ancestors and, any loved one that I know that has passed on. And I give thanks for having the loved ones that I still have with me. And then I actually physically will put this in the earth. So I give it back to the earth. And that's it. It's not very theatrical or anything like that. It is one of my more like in-depth rituals that I do. But it's for the ancestors. It's for giving thanks and all that.
Well, that's yeah, that's old school. That's the original meaning, really. You're doing the traditional. That's what this Halloween actually is all about. That's what the treats are all about. They used to have soul cakes that they would hand out to the poor when they would go trick or treating. You used to put wine out and food for the souls. Going back hundreds of years. As far as the beginning of Halloween, that's really what all the traditions were all about. It used to be a big holiday too, because going in Halloween into the next day, it was all about forecasting future events. As far as if you were single, they would try and forecast who you were going to marry. They would do things on Halloween night, like look in a mirror with a candle burning with the lights off, and your future husband would appear in the mirror behind you. You could see his face. They would do all sorts of funny things on Halloween, and it was all for like love and romance, going forward. So there's a lot of funny traditions that are sort of lost, a lot of them, but that's cool that you're doing that. That's the traditional, like hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah. I do definitely still do, like I'll dress up. I haven't actually decided yet what I'm going to be, which is so weird. I was actually thinking a gargoyle because I have the wings for it. But so I dress up. I have little nieces and nephews. Not that I need a reason to go trick or treating, but I use them as the excuse to go trick or treating. And we carve the pumpkins. We do all that. We decorate our house. So it's really quite the event for me and my family. We all get together, and it's definitely about being with family, giving thanks and acknowledgement to our ancestors and giving thanks for the ones that we still have with us, plus being involved in everybody's imagination, making their ideas come to life for them. So it's a lot of fun.
And they say, Halloween is the one day of the year where all the souls of your dead relatives come back to visit. So that's the night when everyone's going to come back. That's why they will put out, treats for them, wine. You'll do that, set that up. But and the veil is the thinnest, so you'll have visitation from relatives too. So it's all about family, really. And so it sort of goes back to that, which is really neat as well.
It is. I might have to adopt that myself this year.
Hey, absolutely. Yeah, it's nothing like big, and again, it's not theatrical. None of my practice is. I do a lot of very earthy stuff. But it's the only thing I can suggest is if you do the food and stuff, bury it deep enough so that it can't be dug back up easily. Especially if you have dogs and stuff in the yard and you don't want them getting into it, So just keep that in mind. But yeah, it's a fantastic thing. It's so simple, and it's just a small portion of whatever it is you had, and it's just so that you're sharing that meal, that drink, that snack, whatever it was, with your ancestors. So
I just love the symbolic thing behind that. It's just I never would have thought of something like that. That is just the coolest thing ever.
I should designate an area for the memorial garden back there too. That would be a great spot to do, where every year sort of do the same. That would be a really neat thing to do. That'd be great. For the party, we could put some taco dip aside.
Yep.
And go bury it up there. But I would definitely do that for, that's funny. My sister and people who passed away that we have trees back there for, that would be I might just do that. That's a really good idea. Just designate a spot, have it be its own little, need to do a table and chairs somehow, but have it be a little spot where they would be sitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a tradition that you see across many cultures, but this is just how I've kind of refined it down for what works for me. A lot of the times, they'll actually put these on the grave sites, or they'll put them, and they'll have the candles and everything burning for them. But then they also you'll put them on your doorsteps and things like that for them. All these different things. I've limited it just down to a small altar that I create specifically just for Halloween or Samhain. And that way it's just special for that night, I guess. I don't know how to really explain it. Because I live in Jamestown, I can't really just go to the cemetery and do that, or or stick food out or anything, because I'm sure all of the stray cats and dogs will be at my door eating everything.
Raccoons will love you.
Yeah. So I can't really do that.
The simplicity of it. That's what's so beautiful. It doesn't need theatrics and pomp and circumstance. It's just kind of so private, but so meaningful.
Yeah, I a lot of what I do is very simple, very quiet. I'm very gentle. At least I try to be very gentle. And so people sometimes mistaken that for weakness, but being gentle just can be very strong.
Absolutely.
And
so it's more respectful, though,
Yeah. So I try to approach things in that manner, especially when I'm working within the metaphysical realm. I'm sure my mom, she'll be listening to this and she's going to be like, yeah, okay, but you're the biggest brute I know. And, for certain things, yes, I definitely am. I would not trust me with any fine china or birthday cake. Because I will drop it. But but I do try to be very gentle, very respectful, simple, down to earth, very clean workings. Just because for me that's what works. I don't need
exactly.
I don't really need the fancy spells and things like that is romanticized in many of the witchcraft cultures. There's nothing wrong with that if you do that. It's just not something I do. So
I was very privileged to study with Lori Cabot. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of her.
Oh yeah, from Salem.
Yeah, I have some of her stuff actually, and she's the same way. She's her popularity has made her kind of what's the word I want?
Commercialized.
But to sit and talk to her, she's so gentle and so loving. And not this couple weeks ago when I was in Salem, but the last time I was there, I had seen her and she's so fragile. She's 87, I think now. And she's looking pretty frail. Yeah. But I just have so much admiration for her because she's like you, Kay. She doesn't have to have that. She chooses it, and she's just a cool person.
Do you know who Lori Bruno is? She's another witch out in Salem. She runs the Magica shop. She was at Hex for a while, but because my family's in Salem, but we used to go there all the time. I know her, but she's funny because they were battling for a while. Those two witches. There was a witch battle in Salem. So because they practice differently. Lori Bruno's Armenian. She's sort of Straga, so she's old world witchery. She does more of the spell casting. where it's not so commercialized. Lori Cabot's more, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, more for the tourist stuff, I guess, but Lori Bruno does the old school stuff. So she has more of the spellcasting supplies and things like that are traditional, wolf's hair and things like that. So she has a lot of really neat stuff in her shop. Very, very different. Very different styles, though.
Yeah, like a lot of my stuff is, again, like it's just very quiet, very still. I find a lot of power in that sort of thing. Because I did work with animals, I'm already got kind of like, I call it my monk-like quietness or calmness, and it's just because while everything else is going chaotic, if you raise yourself up to that level, nothing's going to get done. So you have to keep yourself kind of calm to be able to work with this. And within the metaphysical field, when you're working with this stuff, it can get chaotic really quickly. Especially if you're just starting out and you don't really know what you're doing, it can kind of get away from you a little bit. So staying calm in it kind of helps.
Plus you feed it. You feed that chaos, or you feed the fear, or you feed the stress. Your stress amplifies it. So you have to always be really, really careful with that, because they feed off it. So if you have anything negative around you, you know, if you're drawing anything in, it will make it just like pouring gasoline on fire. So,
And like with like what you guys were talking about with people coming in, you don't know what they're necessarily bringing. You can do the smudging for spirit to keep spirit out. But if there's a negative person that you want to keep away, a very simple thing, after they leave, you take just like a handful of table salt and you toss it out the door after them, and then you sweep it off the porch and off away from your property. And this will help keep them from coming until they're like done being on that. Maybe they just got really angry, or, you know, there was some drama going on. Once that's over, then they'll be able to come back once they've gotten rid of that negative whatever.
Yeah, that's what the black salt's about as well. It's like 4 parts salt, 1 part ash, and then you put that around. You know, if you were to go through and smudge your location, you put that over the windowsills, door frames, so the negativity doesn't come back in. But you can also put it around the person. So if you don't like someone, you don't want them to come back to your house, or you want them to leave, nonchalantly sort of put that around their chair.
Right.
If they ask what you're doing, nothing. So I'm not doing anything. But it's sort of a way to sort of bind them and to have them leave and not really come back, if you want to try and make them not come back. Because some people do bring that negative. You know, we all have people that are, I think everyone's good, but I think I've only ever run into people maybe 3 or 4 times in my whole life where they just feel evil to me, or very dark, or there's something wrong with them. Not mentally, but spiritually. Like there's something just dark, you know?
Yeah.
It's not often that I run into that.
Yeah. So that is like something though, like, again, it's not theatrical. It's very fast, and it's very old school. Like once it's done, it's done. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no candle lighting and like this big, beautiful, you know, rhyme or spell or like poem type thing. There's none of that. It's just cut, dry, the end, you know, like that's just how I work, I guess. I get to the point with it. That's the only way I can like kind of like describe it.
No, I get it. It's all about cleansing anyway. So the salt is all for cleansing purposes as well. That's why you put all your crystals in that, and anything you're using, pendulums, things like that, to cleanse it.
And like when I'm working with spirit, like if I feel like there's somebody that's brought something with them before they get up to me, I'll do what I call like the witch's line, and basically you just take your foot and you just draw a line in the doorway or like a barrier between you and that person, and it helps keep like that juju over there, and you know, keep it away from you. So if you ever see me like ever do that, it's because somebody's got something with them that I don't really agree with, so I'll kind of just real quick nonchalantly draw a line with my foot and kind of block it. So I do a lot of old stuff, and a lot of it's all spirit led, so it's things that I've been taught through them, and then I get reading something and I'm like, hey, other people do that, that's weird.
Right. And I have a lot of things that I make as, when I would do the psychic fairs and things like that, but just using like coffin nails and things like that it's old school, witchery, but you can't find that stuff here. They don't sell it anywhere around here. Salem, you can find things here and there, but even like the coffin nails where you bind your property, put one in each corner of your property line, have iron nails. There's all sorts of things you could do, but people, you have to be really careful what you're doing as far as spell casting because it comes back at you. So you can't do anything negative. And for what I do, it's always for the positive. It's always for protection. It's always for the positive. I don't do anything negative,
And never for yourself.
And not for and not for yourself. Yep. Because you do have to be careful. I mean, you are messing with things. If you're doing things with intention, you're drawing attention to it. So someone's listening. There's always someone listening, even if it's just your spirit guide. So you have to be really, really, really careful because they do like to teach you lessons as well. So if you're trying to do something negative, it's going to come back at you.
Yeah. Yep. It definitely will. So because we're kind of going in, because of all the traditional stuff and within the metaphysical field that we use, like the Ouija board and things like that, they're very trendy around Halloween. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think kids should be messing around with this sort of thing, or do you think they should maybe wait until they're a little bit older and know what they're doing with it?
Well, Parker Brothers sells them. I'm sorry, Billie, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
They need to be taught about intent and not just asking anything to come through. And I think this is where Ouija boards get such a terrible rep because, you can conjure somebody. It doesn't even have to be a Ouija board. If you're calling in spirits, you don't know what you're getting. So I think it's like I learned a lot about that from Tim Shaw, is you have to be very, very careful with your intent. And I think because kids are 10 feet tall and bulletproof, they tend to throw that caution to the wind.
Mm-hmm. And they've been selling Ouija boards. I mean, Hasbro and Parker Brothers have been selling Ouija boards since the 40s. But they've had Ouija boards for sale since the turn of the century. I mean, the Victorians used them. So it's a tricky thing. But like you said, I mean, I don't know. But I think it does open portals, though. I think people don't take it seriously. There's a lot of people who just don't think it's a real thing. If you've got 10-year-old girls having a slumber party and they're like, let's play the Ouija board, Yeah. I don't know what that's really gonna, I don't know. Like if every kid who did that had some attachments, the world would be insane. I mean, it is insane. Maybe that's what's causing it. But you know what I mean? But there's so many kids who use that, young kids too. Because even says that it's like ages 8 to 10 or 8 to 12 or something. So they're really not marketing it for adults. It's a toy, right? They think it's a toy, but the Victorians took it very seriously. I mean, I have a couple boards that are from the 1930s, 1920s.
And witch boards were around long before that.
Yeah, and spirit communication is weird anyway. Like you said, you can use anything. That's what, when you do a paranormal investigation and you have a K2 meter on a table and you're saying, hey, if you're here with us, can you light that up for us? And it lights up, then right there, you've just opened a communication channel. But as long as you open the session, you ask the spirits, you're respectful, even if they come through and they're negative and they may say they're swear words or they're calling you names, whatever, always thank them when you're done with the session, because they went through the effort to come forward and try and talk to you, even if they're calling you bad names or they're being nasty. They went through the effort to try and communicate with you. So always close the session out, ask your spirit guides to close it out, tell them only positive stays, negative has to go. So you always have to properly close it out. And they don't teach kids that, obviously, when they have a Ouija board, but.
Yeah. What do you think of the, so there's also the taboo too with like the black cats. And I know like over at my mom's house, we have a stray black cat that we've been taking care of. And so we'll kind of bring her in. She's not like a fan of that, but we'll bring her in just because they're afraid that with the teenagers and stuff in the area that they're going to do something because it is Halloween, because that sort of thing does happen.
Absolutely.
Never had a problem with them. I have 3 black outdoor cats, and they've they've never been a problem or had a problem.
Yep, I have a black cat. I have a little Salem. She's my baby. I love my Salem. She's such a good girl. She's so funny because I have the 3 male cats and then I have her. She's the only female, but she is my husband's cat. And she does the weirdest things, I swear, of all the cats. She will just sit and stare at him. She'll sit at his feet and just stare at him. And she'll just like watch him. Wherever he goes, she'll just follow him around and watch him like his protector. It's really, really funny. But yeah, she's got her own thing going on. She definitely she's very funny compared to the boys. Like she's way more skittish. She does not like other people. Like if we're in the house, fine, she'll come and sit with us. But anyone else is in the house and she'll hide. But yeah, black cats get such a bad reputation. I just don't understand it. I mean, I do understand it. It was back in the day. They thought that witches used them. They were witches' commons, and that they were turned into like cats and on the familiars. Exactly. So yeah. So there's that. But then stories start. It's all rumors and stories and legend. So it's sort of sad. Poor black cats. I would have 100 of them if I could.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I definitely. It's actually quite surprising that I don't have a black cat of my own because of all the trap and release. But I have grays. I have gray cats. So with bright blue eyes. So they were grays, but I'm pretty sure somewhere in there they got to have some sort of Russian blue because they look spot on for it. But yeah, I think definitely for anybody listening that is thinking about these sort of things, do your research, leave the black cats alone.
You can't hurt. The animals are they're older than humans, and they're protected, and the animal realm is run by the angelic realm. So the angels actually protect the animal realm. So you have to be really careful. When you hurt animals, you're messing with the angelic realm, and you will get messed with big time. Like if you want some serious bad juju, mess with animals. And people are crazy when they mess with animals. Of all things that people do, that's the worst thing you could possibly do. Bad.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't want to think that people do this, but unfortunately, because I have worked in the animal field, I do know what people are capable of. And so, yes, please pick something else to do for Halloween than to try to do what you think is a satanic, thing. Because if you listen to my satanic episode, you'll know that is not something they do. And so just keep it clean, keep it fun, keep it positive, and just have a good time. That would be my suggestion, my advice for everybody.
Sounds good.
Thank you, ladies, so much for being on my show. Is there anything before we go that you'd like to say?
Just have a happy Halloween. Be safe, be kind, and just have a good time.
Yep, same here. I'm going to repeat that as well. Have a good time. Have a great, happy Halloween. It's a Saturday night. It's a full moon. Charge all your crystals. Make sure all your stuff is good. Put your rings up there, everything else that you have that's important to you. Make sure you charge it. It's going to be a beautiful night for it. Halloween and a full moon. So, hopefully it'll usher in some really good luck and into this winter. With all the stuff that's going on in the next week after that.
I really feel like it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's good things are coming, and I think we just gotta hang in there. Use Halloween as a good reason to have a bit of fun, to kind of dispel all the negativity that's happened this year. I know that's what I will be doing, and I hope everybody does have a wonderful, wonderful, happy Halloween and a blessed Samhain.
All right, sounds good. You as well. Thank you.
Yes, have a good night. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Night.
Thank you for joining my circle tonight. It was a pleasure to discuss this spooky topic with you, and a thank you to all my listeners for tuning in. And as always, dreadful dreams. Remember, my darlings, to always be kind to those around you, including our friends with claws, fangs, and fur.
Hello, darling. Love the show and want to be more involved? All while showing your support? Have I got the perfect thing for you? Subscribe to my Patreon page today, and as a patron, you'll have the option to select which tier you are interested in, with exclusive patron-only offers from early access, live stream chats, shoutouts, distant readings, and so much more. If this has piqued your interest, please follow the link in the chat or go to patreon.com and search Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn and become a patron today. Thank you for your support, darlings, and as always, dreadful dreams.